went through. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Pamela. And I know Pamela for many years, and she has been my good friend as well. So her journey with her two girls were like, when she is also doing some social service. She's serving to the community. She's also doing bachelor degree, and she's working, and she's also doing her passion, which is dance, and looking after two girls. One of them, I think she's in, the one of the girl is going to be in police, right? The other one,
She's thinking about going in the police first.
okay,
Yeah.
the other one is in IT. Yeah, yeah, in
Biomedical science.
biomedical science. So the impact on the children is one of the very, very bad. In fact, in impact, I would say that, but unfortunately, we cannot help out on this matter. So let's move on to the Akshata now. Akshata, do you have anything to tell about this? Share.
See, to start with, I would like to say that there's no person who's bad or good. There's no hero or villain in a broken marriage. It's just incompatibility, right? It's maybe they're not just made for each other. Maybe they're good for something else, but maybe not together. So, without villainizing or victimizing anybody, I think again I keep going back to the same thing: is the value system, what is inculcated while the child is growing up, is very important, because that will shape the personality and eventually affect the family that he or she will have and the society around him or her. So it's, I think one of them is that we need to give a sense of security to our children. They need to be secure within themselves as individuals. They need to be secure within themselves as within their own skin. They should have that maturity to accept differences, because none of us are clones, right? Each one will have their own point of view. They will have their own upbringing, their own thinking system. So that little bit of maturity we would be welcome, where we can accept differences and still be together. If we end up in a place where if you don't think like me, you don't love me, or if you're talking to your parents, that means you love them more than me. That kind of insecurity can be in terms of various forms, whether, like, it could be financial, like if one person is earning more than the other, that could be financial insecurity. Interpersonal is if the person is friendly or close to somebody else, that could cause insecurity. So it's very important for us to build that sense of security in our children, that where they can have that perspective to see that, yes, they are doing this, the situation is this, they should be able to analyze it and just keep it simple, not mess it up, and cause a jumble ball for themselves and for people around. So the clarity of perception for me is very important to build in. And again, I said, me personally, I was a very vulnerable or emotionally submissive as a person. Compared to what I am now, I'm happy that I went through that experience, and I always keep calling my ex-husband my guru, because he's taught me what perhaps even my parents couldn't teach. So he's made me so strong, so rock solid inside, that nothing affects me. But I would not want my son to go through that kind of trauma to become that strong. It's important for me to inculcate that as a personality trait. So we make sure that we are doing yoga again. I go back to the same thing. That really helps us with clarity of perception and not messing up things.
I very much agree with Akshata as well. Yes, yeah, we are not meant for each other. That's how it goes. But yeah,
Like perhaps my case was slightly different from what Pamela or Guy went through. Is I did not have an early marriage. I was like a rather little slightly late in normal terms of getting marriage, and I hung on to it for 12 and a half years. It was not like I sensed it and then we called it quits. I didn't. I hung on to the rather abusive marriage for 12 and a half years, just because I didn't want my son to not have a father, because I had some problem with that man. But eventually, it's the mother in me who took the stand to walk out, because I did not want my son to grow up in an atmosphere like that. So perhaps putting up with that marriage would have been more harmful to him than walking out, because either he would grow up thinking it's okay to treat another human being like that, which is not okay, or he would end up growing some kind of bitterness towards the father who was treating the mother in a certain way, neither of which was good for him. And I didn't want that to affect his relationship with the father. So that's the reason we moved out. And then he continued to have a healthy relationship with the father, and quite regularly meeting and talking until he passed on. So perhaps there is no thumb rule that again can be applied to every situation. It would
The pain and the trauma and everything on the child, the impact on the child on about the marriage responsibilities and
Oh, in marriage, I realized that
the stories.
it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. It's a long run marathon, which, well, for better for worse, till death do us part, right? And the best part is there is no contract. It is that ring that symbolizes your vow. Like what Pamela said and what Akshita said, you make that vow, you keep on saying it, and you keep it. That is a promise that you live on. I mean, you can't get along. Two reasons. I think the main ones are you don't try hard enough, your expectations are too much, or you just gave up. Something seriously just went wrong. If something seriously goes wrong, then yes, you know what, maybe like what you said, Aarti, divorce is the better way. But in most cases, I would say the reason you come together is the same reason why you fall apart, because you found something, but as you go along, people change. As you grow older, you change, but you change as a couple together and not grow apart. I got married in my mid-30s. My marriage didn't last very long, about 4 years. I had a kid, and I'm happy with my son. I don't regret being married, but we need to understand with a pinch of salt that marriage, when it breaks, it's like broken glass. It's sharp. But you have a kid in the picture. You need to fix that sharp edges. You need to blunt it off because the kid suffers for all this. The last thing you want is the kid to understand and see your animosity and your anger towards the other parent of the child. That is not good. That really impacts the child. And that's what I think Pamela and Akshata was talking about, which children really don't want to see that. And it breaks their heart when they see this and they grow up, which answers your question. Why do you have live-in relationships? It comes back to your question. Why do you have live-in relationships? Because they have a fear of getting married. Easy walk away without that commitment, without that burden, without being tied down. But if you can fight for it, that would be ideal. Even though if, in the worst case, you're divorced, but child shouldn't suffer in between. As long as you don't live together, that's fine. But the child still has two parents, right? Still has a father and a mother. As long as the relationship remains with the child grows up, maybe in two different households, but with the same heart that they have a family, because the man and the woman are linked because of the kids. What other way are they linked? They're free to go their own ways. They have all the freedom they want. But it's about the kid. And when the kid loses one parent, that is the worst thing that anybody can do. Any child can suffer that. That's the most vulnerable part, because that is a child. It is easy for us to say, don't see your parents like this, your parents like that, your father is like this, your mother is like that. At the end of the day, it is your child's parent. You just derogated your own child. That's not good. That's really, really, really bad. You wouldn't want the same thing for yourself. You wouldn't want the same thing for yourself. I mean, a guy went through the same thing also, but he's still fighting for it for the best. I hope this is helpful.
Thank you so much, Mr. Janak.
Can I add on to what Mr. Janak actually said?
Yes, Pamela.
On the end of this, I mean, like, because I have worked with kids, I saw my own kid. I wished my ex-husband saw my children when he passed away. Because when he passed away, before that, in fact, he was sick for 9 months. He had diabetes that couldn't reverse back. So we were trying to actually go and see him. The children were connected with him. They wanted to get to know him a bit more. We knew that he may not last very long. But his second wife stepped in and came up with some lies to stop the children from seeing their father. It was a very bad lie to judge a child and say the child wanted the father dead. So when she said that, a child's heart breaks. How come this has happened? So the thing is, then it stopped us from communicating to him. And then we knew he was falling sick, was deteriorating. And when we got to know he passed on, my elder child could never come to terms with it. She didn't break down. Until about maybe 2 weeks later, she broke down very badly in front of her aunties who were the father's sisters. And my younger child was collapsing in the house, crying on the floor. And she said only one thing, and I think every parent who has decided to leave a marriage and decided to bring the child away from the other parent or just decided to abandon the child, I would only have one thing to say. When this child heard her father passed on and she was on the floor crying, she said, I thought that I could get to know my father. I did not cry throughout the entire process, but even now I feel it because I'm close to my parents and especially my dad. My daughter said this and it broke me down, and in my heart I told the universe, you hear this? This is what happens if you don't let your child get to know you, and if people stop a parent from getting to know a child. It can't be replaced. I can't replace that. He didn't want to be close to the children. But you see, when the child cries, what solution do I have? You see, so that is the effect of divorce on a child, and you decide that your new partner is better, your new family is better, and even if this family wants to get to know you, they stop. You see, I don't know how many other children are like that, but I've seen it when I worked in the schools, parents fighting like a tug war, but they don't see the child there. They don't want to give maintenance because they see ex-wife will take money or ex-husband will take money. That's what they're thinking. But the
I
child's heart,
okay, whenever there's a marriage break or a family break, it's always the third person. It could be anyone. It could be your friend. It could be his friend. It could be a in-laws. It could be the affair, extramarital affair, anybody. We will come back.